This week, I get to installing the monitor side of the rear view safety camera system into our truck. In order to get the wire to the firewall, and actually through the firewall, I ran the wires across the top of the gauge cluster. So that I could have access to that, all I had to do was take off this panel on the side of the dash. Now I've pre-taken it off to show you, but it's just got these plastic clips that hold it in place. So that snaps in pretty easy. I ran the power wire, camera wire, and actuator wire through this piece of flex loom, and that's to protect it, you know, as it goes through here. I don't know what's under here. I wasn't about to disassemble the whole dash to do this project, but it's going to protect it as it passes by any of these sharp edges like you see here on the edge of the dash support. The flex loom runs down, and I found a way to run it through the large 3-inch grommet that is kind of the main entrance between the engine compartment and the passenger compartment. That's a two-tier grommet, so you're looking at one side, then there's an air gap, and then there's another thick piece of rubber on the other side that you have to run the wire through. It was really difficult to get through that. I had to cut a fairly large hole, but in the end I think it worked out just fine. I did stop the flex loom on this side and then put a fresh piece coming in on the engine compartment side. So you can see that, you know, it's pretty tight in here. I expected it to be a little bit easier, being how big the truck is, but they have so much technology in these things, it makes it really difficult. I'm moving around to the engine compartment side, so I'm right up by the firewall on the driver's side. There is a fuse and relay box, and this is where the fuses and relays for the upfitter switches exists. They've already got everything pre-fused, pre-wired, pre-relayed, and they've got wire pigtails that come out of this, and you'll see in the video how those are utilized. But I've wrapped everything that I've done in this flex loom. So the power wire and the actuator wire ultimately connect to relays in this box, and then the camera wire I split off and went down to the frame rail to run it to the back of the truck. So coming underneath, I guess I didn't trim all the zip ties just yet, but it comes down alongside this frame rail, and I have it zip tied to an existing bundle of wires in their own wire loom. And you can see this one is mine, this is the factory harness. So I followed this all the way back. You can see the difference there. Mine's the cleaner one because it's only been there for a very short time. And I ran it back all the way to the back of the cab. And once I got to the back of the cab, I ran it around this framing member and brought it up around this framing member and up through the dead space between the inner wall of the bed and the outside wall of the truck. So here's the outside wall. So I ran it up through there, and again, wire loom the whole way, and zip ties where necessary to keep it from flopping around. Now this is what it looks like from the inside of the bed of the truck. I put a rubber grommet in this hole, ran the wire through, split loom tubing. I've got a couple of zip ties screwed in underneath. There we go. And so that's well protected. And then here's the connector. It's bolted or screwed on to the bed of the truck. And then that'll give us
some space for the flex line to connect to the trailer itself. Turning our attention back to the front of the truck, it's time to go ahead and hook up the leads from the upfitter switch relay to the actual wires that I ran power for the camera. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and snip these off. Get that out of the way. I have some heat shrink tubing here as well. I'm going to make sure that I fish that onto the wire before I do the soldering. Back on the inside of the truck, I have the power wire, the activate wire, and then of course pigtails for the video system. I do want to be able to use the voice feature, the audio feature of this video camera system. In order to do so, there's a blue wire labeled V3 on the sticker that if I apply 12-volt power to it, it's going to turn on the camera. But I don't want that volume on all the time. And I'm kind of lazy. I don't like to hit the volume controls on the monitor all the time. So what I'm going to do is use this white wire. I'll trigger it with a separate one of our upfitter switches, and that will allow us to turn on and off the sound as we need it. Back to our power wire. Put the heat shrink on.
Now looking in the dash, there's this metal beam here with a couple of nice big nuts on it. I'm almost certain that that's going to be a ground point. So I'm going to attach a spade connector. Looks like these nuts are nylon nuts, so I won't have to worry about this backing out on me, which is good. So I'm going to crimp the spade on here. Should be good. Not gonna forget to heat shrink white wire, trigger wire. Okay, before I finally mount this in the front of the dash, I'm going to do some initial testing. I've connected the camera up, or the monitor up to the pigtails, and right now I don't have my aux switches on. When I turn the first one on, the monitor comes on. It has no signal because I'm not hooked up to the rig right now, so I don't have the camera connected. And then when I switch to aux 2, that is the parking lines. So that tells me that it's triggering properly, and I'll be able to control the volume in the parking lines independently of the power. So we'll be able to use this as a monitor, like an observation camera when we're driving, and then flip it on, and it turns into a communication device as well as a measuring device. So it's good. The next step is to actually mount the video camera or the video monitor to the dash insert. The monitor has 3 screws, the base has 3 screws holding it in now. I also have a hole saw. It'll be big enough to feed the cable in through. I also plan on putting a grommet in so that it just finishes up real nice and makes it so that it's looks professional and complete. Now I like to drill twice. Once from the front, just to get the centering bit through and the initial cut of the hole, and then I'll flip it over and go from the back side so I get a nice clean cut. This is a 7/8 inch hole saw. Which will certainly fit that connector. The female end that's in the truck has a little bit wider piece on it, so going a little bit bigger is better in this case. And I will thread this grommet onto that wire before I try to set it into the hole I just drilled. I'll put the grommet over the wire first. That will allow me to stretch it the way that I need to. And I'll feed the wire up through. And set the grommet in place. Now we look like we have a finished hole in here. I'm not forgetting to reconnect the center speaker. Making sure that we've stuffed all the wires down in place. The dash panel snaps back in. And we can replace these 2 screws. course, speaker cover. And last but certainly not least, put the rest of this ball mount in place. Double check everything comes on when it's supposed to. See, it says no signal. Flip it over and it switches to the camera view. Turn it off. Excellent. So there it is, mounted in the dash. I have the aux switches, the upfitter switches, off right now. When I turn on aux 1, I have it default to the camera's camera 3, so it comes on. And as you can tell, there's no sound coming. And if I press the button, the volume's all the way up. Nearly. I think it goes up to 100, but there's nothing. Now, if I set it aux 2 to come on, now you could hear what's going on outside. When I am looking forward from the driver's seat, I have the lens of the camera right in front of my eye, so it doesn't block much. I'm happy with it. Thanks for tuning in to this second part of the two-part series on the rear view safety camera install. I hope you liked this, and if you did, hit that little thumbs up icon. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell icon so that you get notified when I put out more content like this. My name's Todd from the Alcohol Free RV, where we have more mods, adventures, upgrades, and repairs along the way. See you next time.